Hi everyone. In today's video, we will see how to use SQL Worksheet feature from OCI console. So once you log into OCI console and if you go to developer services, you see a feature here as SQL Worksheet. Once you go to it, you will see this kind of a page that opens where you can run the SQL queries that will hit directly your database. It can be your on-premise database. It can be a database on IaaS, or it can be your autonomous database that is created on cloud also. So if you see, there are different connections over here. So even before we start running the queries on this page or on this console, the first thing we have to do is create a connection. But even before creating a connection, the way this feature works is it will require some kind of a key to be stored in Vault. So there is a concept of OCI Vault wherein you store your keys, which will be automatically accessed by the database connection which you will create. So what happens is when you run the query, it hits the connection checks the key has to be stored in a OCI Vault for this entire process to work. So we will see how to fire the query here, and we will use the ADW connection that I have already created a ADW database here in my tenancy. I will use that ADW database to fire a query. But even for that query to be successful, the first thing I will have to do is create a connection. So let me go a step back. I'll go to developer services again, and I'll go to Vault. So let me just query Vault here. Okay, so the first thing I will do is I'll create a Vault. I'll name it as, for example, demo, and I'll just click on create. This should not take more than few seconds. Let me refresh the page. Okay, it's still creating. Let's refresh it again. Otherwise, I'll pause the video and come back once it is active. Okay, let me just pause the video here, and once it is created, I will come back. Okay, so the vault is created now. You can see the status as active. Let me click on demo, and then I have to create a master encryption key. So I'll click on create key. You can select different modes here. I'm going to keep the default one. I'll name it as demo key. And you can also import your external key if you have. It has to be in this format, AES and 256 bits. If you have it, you can import it from your local desktop, or if you have stored it on some external drive, or there are different SFTP locations that the customer might use. If you have it, you can import it as well. So I'm going to create a new one here. So I clicked on create key. Let me refresh the page once. Okay, we'll pause the video here, and we'll come back once the status is active again. All right, so as you can see now, the key status is changed to enabled. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to create a secret. Secret is where we will be storing our password of the database where we will be creating a connection to. So whenever you fire a SQL statement, it will go to the database. It will check whether the key of that database is stored in this vault or not. So I'm going to create a secret here. I'll name it as demo secret. Description, again, I'll keep the same. Key, I have to refer the same key that I have created in the initial stage. And then you have an option whether you want to give your password in plain text or base 64. I'll show you how it works. For example, this is my database password. I'll convert it into base 64 here, or if you have already converted it into base 64, you select the base 64 option and give that input here. I don't have the base 64 with me, so I'm going to select this show base 64 conversion and click on create secret. So it is now creating the secret that we have given all the inputs for. Okay, the secret is active now. So we have completed our vault configuration. Now let's go back to creating a connection. So I'll go to developer services. I'll go to connections, and I have to create a connection for my database. So I'm going to give the same name that was consistent with my what you say the naming conventions I give for my vault. So I will give as a demo DB. I'm going to select Oracle Autonomous Database. You can select MySQL database, Oracle Exadata. You can select Oracle based database. I will select Oracle Autonomous Database, and I'll select ADW demo. This is the database, ADW database that I have created. I have to give the username. I'll give the username as admin. Now user password secret. So I have this demo secret created, and then I'll click on next. It will ask for SSO wallet. So I don't have any SSO wallet stored anywhere. So uh, I'll click on create wallet secret, and I'll give demo wallet. The vault is demo. And what I will do is, instead of I uploading the wallet, I will let this UI retrieve the auto login wallet from my autonomous database, because it is internally referring to the ADW that we have already given information for. So I'll click on create, and then I'll click on create. Okay. So with this, my configuration is done now. What I need to do now is I'll have to simply go to SQL Worksheet. Now remember, it is pointing to the database that I have selected. Although the connection is DemoDB, but internally it is referring to the ADW database. So let me select one of the. Let me just fire one of the select. Let me fire a select query from one of the database table. Okay, so if you see, it is automatically referencing the table. So if I click select star from TBL revenue and run, it is giving me the data. One more thing you can do as a validations, whether the connection is successful or not is, if you go back to database tools, DemoDB, you can click on validate. So this is nothing but a validate connection that we do in SQL Developer or anything. You see, validated connection to the database. If there is any issue, if there is any configuration that is missing, you will not see this message. You will see some kind of an error. Now, because we are able to validate the connection, that is why when we launched the SQL worksheet, we were able to see the database table that was retrieved, and I can see the data now. What you can do is you can download this output in any format you want. Like for example, I want to download it in the CSV. See, it is downloaded on my local machine. Another thing you can do is you can save this output to either it is same basically. If you download it, it will automatically download on your local drive. But if you want to save this output, you can save it on your local drive, or you can save it on in object storage also. Let's say I want to save it in object storage. I'll name it as query 1, and I'll select the bucket. So I'll select the bucket as snapshot just for this demo purpose, and click on save. What we will do is we will now go to our storage buckets and see whether it is reflecting there or not. So I'll go to my snapshot, because that is the bucket I selected. And if you see, it is automatically appearing over here. You can do the reverse also. Like for example, if there is a query you have saved in your object storage bucket and you want to call that query in your SQL worksheet, you can do that as well. For example, if I go to developer services, SQL worksheet, and load. Now again, you have option whether you want to load from the local drive or you want to load from the object storage. If you click on object storage, it will ask for which bucket to select and which query. So I'll click on again load. So it has, because it is the same query, it is not reflecting any change over here. But basically, you can load the query into your object storage for your reference purpose as well. So these are some of the things that you can do using your SQL worksheet. So what is the benefit of it? So the benefit of this is that so what happens is, if you have a ADW connection, you need to have access to SQL developer on your machine, or in RDC that you are using for customer project purpose. You need to have a wallet. Sometimes handing over the wallet to everyone is not feasible, and it could be restrictive also if you work for a highly sensitive customers like banking and all. In that case, instead of giving that wallet to everyone, if you limit the access of this SQL worksheet to selected users, they can simply log into this SQL worksheet feature, and from the UI itself, they can query the data. You can query the data. You can probably you can create the tables also, depending on what sort of access you have provided. You can restrict the policy. You can create certain policies to restrict access to certain users only. You can create a group. You can assign selected business users to that group, and you ensure that this access of accessing the worksheet and doing certain DML operations are restricted only to that group. This way it will ensure that not everybody will have access to this feature, but only users who need to have an access can do all these features instead of logging into SQL developer every time. Now, another thing that I want to cover in my next video is, let's say you have a database in a private subnet. So for this demo, what I have done is I have selected the database that is in a public subnet that can be accessed over the internet. What if you have a ADW database that is in a private subnet? In that case, this feature cannot be accessed this easily. What you need to do is you need to create your connection using the private endpoint, and that private endpoint then access the database using the network security group. So if I go to my ADW database, Oracle database, Oracle autonomous database, I have two databases created. One database that I have referenced for this demo is ADW demo, which is created in a public subnet. But if I go to ADW private, which is basically created using the private endpoint, if you see this, there is a private endpoint here. If I try to access this database directly using the configuration that I have shown you right now, you will not be able to access it directly, because what we need to do is we need to have a network security group attached to this database, and that network security group helps in connecting the private endpoint of your database to a private endpoint that you will create, and then only you can access the SQL worksheet feature. How it can be achieved, we will see in the next video. If you have any questions around it, please drop them in the comment section. Thank you.